there just comes a point in time where you have to stop giving a fuck.
I think we should definitely start with how we met each other.
Okay.
Okay, so this is my friend, Cassie.
What's up?
You can still text if you...
No, I wasn't texting. I'm good.
So we pretty much met through Instagram.
I hit you up.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to do better at knowing local artists, and I heard you on SoundCloud, and I was like...
I was wondering how you found me, too. I was like...
Well, you had a song about rolling blunts, so I knew we'd probably be friends, but mainly I just hit you up because I like to try to tell people when I dig their shit, and I didn't expect to gain a friend out of it.
I didn't expect it either! Oh my
But
gosh.
you like talking about all the taboo shit I like talking about.
That's why we're here.
Yep.
I didn't really think that she was going to come to one of my shows. But...
Well, you invited me to your album listening party.
I know, but listen, you invite people to stuff,
and they don't.
Yeah, if they don't really know you, they're not going to come. So I was really shocked. Like, I think it was like 3 events, probably within a few weeks, that you came to every single one.
Yeah,
you came to every single one. I was like,
I tried to show up when I.
This is a real friend. That's what I was thinking. So let's go ahead and get into some deep shit.
Yeah.
I hate that I have to give my answer first. So the first question is, what are generational curses? A lot of people think generational curses is just, I was a teen mom and I had a kid out of wedlock, and then my daughter becomes a teen mom and then she had a kid out of wedlock, and so on and so forth. And I guess that is kind of a generational curse. But I feel like generational curses go way deeper than that. I don't know, for me, I feel like I'm carrying baggage. That's really not my baggage. Like, I feel like I'm carrying my mom's baggage. My mom is carrying her mom's baggage, and so on and so forth. And it's just really crazy, because I feel like a lot of people are walking around carrying other people's baggages, aka generational curses, and they don't even realize it. So they're a victim, and I don't know, I feel like it's hard to overcome something if you don't even realize that you have something to overcome. So that's my definition, but I already know how you feel.
No,
I already know how you feel about the word curses.
I agree with everything you said. I just told you I don't like the word curse because, and you made the good point that you can break a curse. So, good point.
That's true.
But
That's true.
I feel like curse has a connotation of like, you're fucked.
Mm-hmm.
You're doomed.
Yeah, like it's permanent.
Yeah. And while there have been studies that actually show exactly what you're talking about, that like demonstrate that the effects of trauma, or even just things like, you know, it's a part of evolution that we evolve certain traits based on the climate that our ancestors lived in. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense, and it's been shown, like I said, through studies that people do experience the effects of trauma. It travels through up to 8 generations. Like, your genes could be altered from a trauma.
So much. And don't you think it's crazy when people be like, this runs in the family? Like, it'll be like certain problem, they'll be like, oh, that runs in the family, lying runs in the family, stealing runs in the family, or like superstition runs in the family. Like, it's like, why do y'all think it's okay, like, that this runs in the family?
I think it's like habit, you know? It's like habits.
Generational curse.
It's
passed down. It's
right.
passed down. Even racism.
Right.
I feel like that's a generational curse that's passed down.
For sure.
It's passed down generation to generation to generation.
For sure. And it's, you know, the only reason I don't like the word curse is because I think, although for sure the shit that happens, and some people would even go as far back as past lives. Some people feel like your energy or different things you're carrying are from before this time and before your past generations. So
yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. But I feel like the science also shows we really although for sure have more of a chance of certain things if our genes have been, you know, developed in a certain way. There's a thing called epigenetics. That talks about the way you structure your life can have an impact on how those genes are expressed. So you might have like a pre-existing tendency to develop whatever trait, but if you have a certain diet, a certain, you know, sleep schedule, you've been to therapy and you've addressed some of those things you're carrying from past generations, that can actually positively impact what before was kind of like predetermined to be, you know, something negative. You actually can change those negatives and you can overcome them to some extent with lifestyle choices, but it takes breaking habits.
And those are definitely hard to break. Just
I think
to the
good.
second question.
I think the second question is good.
All right, second question, question number 2. What are some ways your childhood can affect your adulthood, both negatively and positively? Well, I can talk about the negative for days. I had a fucked up childhood. I mean, I feel like a lot of people have fucked up childhood, so I don't want to make it seem like I just had a terrible childhood. I definitely know how it can like negatively affect your adulthood, because like I've always struggled with anxiety. It's something I might struggle with for the rest of my life. I don't fucking know. But I'm just now realizing at 25, the anxiety that I've always felt, it comes from my childhood. Growing up in a house with a like really unpredictable mom. No disrespect, I love my mom, we have a great relationship now. But it's like, I never knew which side I was gonna get. It's like, okay, today she's being nice, she's happy, she's being affectionate, she wants to spend time with us. And then the next minute, like, she would just be screaming and going off about the smallest things. I really feared my mom. And I feel like a lot of parents like strive to have their kids fear them, which I don't really understand, because just because somebody fears you doesn't mean they respect you. I feared my mom, but I had a lot of resentment towards her and I didn't really respect her. So yeah, I definitely know how your childhood can negatively affect your adulthood, and I feel like parents really don't realize how much power they have. Like people, I feel like they just get baby fever, or they want to have a kid to like fill some type of void, but they don't realize like that baby is not going to be a baby forever. That kid is not going to be a kid forever. It's going to grow up to be its own little human, its own little self. And I don't know, I feel like people just want to have kids to like leave some type of legacy, but they don't really think about the big picture. Are you even fit to like have kids? So yeah, I just talked about the negative, so maybe you could talk about the positive. Well, I don't want to be negative.
No, I mean, my line of work is in child support. So
social work.
I used to be a caseworker and I run programs, and people definitely aren't prepared to be parents. A lot of people aren't prepared to be parents when they have kids. And that's for a variety of reasons, but I'll say in contrast, I had like a very privileged upbringing. My parents just have their shit together. Like, damn, I just like look at them like, God, your shit is so together. Like, I think I have my shit together, but
and that's so good that you have parents that you like look up to.
Yeah, and like, I didn't turn out just like them. I'm very much more radical than they are. But it's a testament to them having always encouraged me. They never forced me to play a certain sport or to take up a certain hobby. They were always like, we want you to do you. And they just knew how to provide really well. And so I think that definitely set me up. Like, it totally set me up. And it's hard because I see every day that a lot of kids are growing up without that. And it's not because their parents are fuck-ups or are bad people. They're people who thought a kid would help with their relationship, or they didn't even think because, you know, they just had whatever situation going on that they weren't thinking.
That's true, and
kids.
that's why I really, 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 really wish people would self-reflect more and dig deep into themselves, because I feel like people don't take having kids as serious as they should. Like, I feel like they're like, oh, I'm just gonna have a kid. Like, it's just such a light responsibility.
For sure.
That's not a light responsibility. You're raising a human. You're raising a human. And that's just the thing that kills me. It's like my mom, she's so, you know how like moms are, or parents are when they get to a certain age. And my mom's not even old, so I don't even know why she's saying this, but she's like, when you gonna give me a grandkid? When you gonna give me a grandkid? I'm like, never. It's like, nah.
I tell my mom all the time, don't expect it.
I don't know if I'm going to. Like, maybe, but a part of me doesn't want to, because it's like, I'm trying to, it's still stuff within me that I need to fix that I'm trying to work on. It's like, right now, that's the last thing on my mind. Last thing on my mind is having a kid.
Yeah, and another thing I'll say is, when I was in school for social work, we learned about the ACEs study. And yeah, I was going to offer you the rest of mine if you wanted it, because that's how yours was empty.
Oh, yeah.
Go for it.
Okay.
So the ACEs study, ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, and that could mean parents that were divorced, addiction in the household, abuse, sexual abuse. And in the 90s, they did the study with a huge amount of people, gold standard of research trials. This is legit. And
This is legit.
They gave them a list of these different childhood experiences, found out how many of these different types of basically traumas they endured as children, and gave them a score based on how many they had kind of piled up. And they then tracked their health outcomes for like 20 years. I think they're like still tracking these people's outcomes, and the data shows that the more adverse childhood experiences you have, the more childhood trauma, the greater your risk for pretty much, you can look at the charts online, it's like every single mental and physical health condition.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, I struggle with anxiety, so I definitely understand.
And the other thing is they realized it's a lot more common than they thought. So this sample of people, they were with Kaiser Permanente, they were mainly employed in white. So this population had like 67% of them, I think it had at least one ACE, and a lot of them had multiple, a huge percentage. And that was the most privileged people in society. So if you include all of the more vulnerable populations that endure so much more trauma
it's
than
probably
that.
10 times more.
Yeah. So that was another just thing, is that we as a country don't talk about childhood trauma. So it's kind of like suicide and murder. We think murder is a lot more common because we talk about murder in society. We don't talk about suicide. Suicide's more common. And I think that's the thing with childhood trauma as well, is that it's so much more pervasive, and it has these huge impacts on our mental and physical health.
Hold on, so did you give a positive way that your childhood affects your
Well,
adult?
yeah. I was saying that my
'Cause
parents set me the fuck up. Like,
Okay.
you
'Cause
know,
I don't want to make it seem like I don't have any positive things to say.
Right.
But the negatives definitely stick out more for some reason.
And I said, for me it was pretty much all positives, and I think I didn't ever struggle with any kind of anxiety or depression until I experienced a really bad breakup with some shit that went down.
Yeah, even sometimes, even if you have a good childhood,
Oh,
if you
for
go
sure.
through shit as an adult,
For sure.
I can fuck you up
Oh,
too.
hell yeah. I've been rebounding, and then I burn out from doing too much school and too many things at once at the same time as all that, and I didn't take my mental health seriously because it was good. I never thought I had to take my mental health seriously, and even as a social worker, I am someone to preach, like, take care of your mental, but I was like, but that doesn't mean me, because I have never had issues like that, and it can happen to anybody at any time. And someone the other day said this, and I think it was such a good fucking point. The time to take care of your mental is when it's good. Don't wait until, and some of us obviously are already at the point, so yeah, get help. See if there's any way you can afford or find some kind of therapy before you get to the point, if possible, where you're needing it so desperately.
I mean,
don't have kids unless you're ready. use birth control, but also if you're gonna have kids, fuck with your own stuff first.
You gotta self-reflect.
Resolve your own shit.
You're not gonna get anywhere? Well,
No, I'm good.
okay, I'll just look like a wino then. Because you don't want me to pour a little bit in yours. Dang. Okay, whatever.
I can put a tiny bit, I don't care.
Okay. I just don't want to look like a loser. Okay, so question number 3. How does your childhood play a role in mental illnesses such as anxiety and depression? You want to go first?
We kind of talked about it.
Oh yeah, I feel like I kind of
Did
talked
you
about it.
have stuff to add?
Kinda, I guess my childhood. It definitely played a role in like me having anxiety, because if you have like an unpredictable parent, one minute they're nice and they're loving and affectionate, the next minute they're yelling and screaming and cussing you out. That will definitely make you anxious because you don't know what to expect. Like you don't know what's going to happen. So that definitely.
Well, biologically, it's called your stress response, but like your
It's
stress
kinda like
response
fight or
is
flight.
overreactive because it was always in that fight or flight mode. So that's just what your body's like used to.
But even on top of that, being molested at 3 years old, that's a really, first of all, it's bad to happen, period. But like when it happens that young, that happened so young, it's like, I don't know. It's like, I don't even have an idea of how it was prior to that because I didn't really exist that much. I was only 3. So it's like certain things that have happened, I'm like, I wonder how things would be different or how I would be a different person if certain things wouldn't have happened. I know they say like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but sometimes I feel like I would be a lot better off if I didn't go through the things that I went through as a child. So that's, I guess, my view on how your childhood plays a role in mental illnesses.
So what you were just asking, I mean, I feel like I pretty much was just already talking about that I feel like I was set up to not have anxiety and depression. That just wasn't, my stress response wasn't going as a kid. I had a pretty stress-free childhood, relatively. Well,
I was gonna say you do social work, so I mean, I feel like maybe you would have like maybe some insight on how like people's childhoods. I mean,
well, like I was saying,
do you actually deal with the kids, or do you just deal with?
No, we talk with the parents. So Children's Services is who actually works with kids. Whereas child support, we're just working with parents and helping figure out monetary issues like money and health insurance and stuff.
But I feel like that's so interesting because like, do you ever like come across people or see people or like whoever you help, like do you come across people that you think like, oh God, like I feel bad for their kids?
Oh yeah, mainly because like I was saying before, like so many parents are just not prepared to be parents. Like I said, they're not bad people, but I talk to certain people and I can just tell from the mental state they're in that they're running on kind of like that autopilot. They're working off of the trauma from their childhood, maybe from past generations, from their last relationship, and kids are just stuck in the middle of it, and it really impacts them for sure. And you can see
it even affects their grades, because it's like if a kid has a hard time paying attention in class, or if they have a behavioral problem, like they'll just dismiss the kid as bad or stupid. But it's like you don't even realize this kid has a mental illness. Like if you were able to go into their home and see how they're raised, like see how their parents treat them and talk to them, you would understand why they behave or do the way they do in school.
So something I wanted to follow up on when we were talking about the ACEs study earlier, that's related to what you were just saying, is now everyone from like elementary school teachers to doctors are using the ACEs test to find out what are the kids in their class, or what are my even adult patients, where are they coming from in terms of childhood trauma, because knowing that, you know their risk for certain things, which is good to know obviously as a doctor, And then not only that, but okay, if this person has a really high score, I'm going to need to help them figure out how to address some of those underlying mental issues that lie, and those unresolved mental issues are what causes physical and mental disease or illnesses.
I know this is super random, but I read something that says, I think it was 98% or 99%. 98 or 99% of diseases are caused by stress.
So they think a lot of diseases, the root of it is autoimmune disorders, which from what I understand, I'm not a scientist or I'm not a physician, but
I'm not familiar with that term.
What term? Which one?
What is it?
Autoimmune. So it just means like your immune system, like your autoimmune system, stress. So when you're stressed, you're more likely to get sick. Like generally speaking.
It's so crazy.
That goes for like diseases and
it's so crazy how your mind and body are so connected.
Oh yeah, there's like no
so
separation.
Connected.
Lately when I even talk about like mental and physical, I'm like, oh, those terms like don't even really mean anything because like for example, now your gut, 90% of your serotonin, which is like your chemical that kind of like regulates your mood, is produced in your gut, not in your brain. And so people that have stomach issues, including myself, I had a parasite a couple years ago, and I've had a lot of issues with anxiety ever since. And I think some of it is stuff that went down, but some of it I truly believe is that my gut health is kind of out of whack after that parasite, and I haven't really been able to bounce back from that quite yet. And gut testing is expensive, so a lot of these mental and physical tests that can tell us things about what are going on with us are expensive or not.
Definitely.
But what I wanted to make the point of is that your childhood trauma for sure impacts your mental health and everything as an adult. But there's a lot of science that also shows that we, through mindfulness, meditation, therapy, lifestyle choices like diet, exercise, the ways you decide to express yourself and create, I think that those are all factors that can, it's been shown by science, can actually have an impact on how some of these things develop in you or even can be reversed if certain things are in place.
It's so crazy because a lot of the things that I've realized about my childhood, I've realized from meditation. Like, I'll literally go to the park and meditate. And I'll like have certain visions. It's like voices like that tell me things. I know it sounds crazy.
No, it doesn't.
But it's just, I've had so many epiphanies just sitting at the park meditating like about my life. I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. Like, did you see the J. Cole interview? Oh my God, you gotta see. It's like an hour and 30 minutes long. It's super long as fuck. But he was pretty much talking about, he didn't necessarily use the term generational curses. But he was pretty much talking about how his childhood affected the way that he, was as an adult until he realized certain issues he had. And he was like, oh, I'm doing this because something happened in my childhood or reason. The reason I want so much attention from music and I want people to respect me so bad is because I'm trying to fill a void from my childhood of like not having my father around, like, pretty much being raised in a house with a stepdad who beat me and my brother and my mom. And it was just crazy. It's a really good interview. You gotta watch it.
No, I love it.
But honestly, watching that interview, I was crying the first time I saw that interview. Because I didn't realize like the issues that I had from my childhood were affecting me until I watched that interview. And what he was saying about himself, it I don't know, it just like, it was like a light bulb. It went off in my head. It was like ding, ding, ding. Like, I was just crying, and I went to the park and I was just writing and writing.
And that's why mental health issues are so persistent in societies, because the stigma's been so bad for so long, and I think this is changing some, that we need everyone to talk about it, because it might take you hearing it from a few people before you maybe hear from someone who you relate to a little bit more, and you're like, okay, I can see myself in that person. If they've gone through that, that's making it click for me. And that, I think, is how we break these generational curses, is by creating a culture.
Also, how we break it.
About it.
Because I feel like this would be a good point to say. The last thing I want to say. Also, how we break generational curses is we don't have kids until we overcome or even at least acknowledge and realize the generational curses or trauma or issues from our childhood that we have. Because here's the problem: if you have generational curses, I know she doesn't like that word, so I'm trying. If you have generational curses, or you have just childhood trauma, or like things that you not only haven't gotten over, but you don't even realize you have, it's like, if you don't actually sit and really reflect on your like mental states, then don't have kids. Bottom line is, yes, they're cute, they're cuddly, but they grow up. And they grow up and they need you to help them grow up the right way. I'm not saying there's a specific way, but you know what I mean. Just to be healthy, you know, normal, like, not normal, but loving human beings. But it's like, if you are really fucked up and you have a lot of issues, just don't have kids. If you want to use, if your pull-out game is weak, you need to step it up.
That shit.
Or just, hey ladies, you should know when you're ovulating. Just don't have sex when you're ovulating. It's really not that hard not to get pregnant, even though it's so many people that are. It's really not as easy as it seems. Women should know when they're ovulating. Guys, y'all need to step up y'all's pull-out game. I'm not trying to promote unprotected sex, but I know that's what people do.
Being realistic.
Or use condoms, you know. Or birth control. Just something. Something. Because people just want to have kids to carry their legacy, and they don't actually think about, like, hey, you ever thought maybe this kid will be so fucked up and depressed from all this shit that you've done to them that they are like, you know what, I wish I wasn't even born. It's like, okay, what was the point of you having a kid who wished they weren't even born because of the fucked up way that you treated them? So that's the last thing I want to say. I feel like you wanted to say something more positive. You said you wanted to mention something.
No, I think I already said it, just that...
Oh, okay, you sneaked it in there.
Well,
I didn't even notice.
But, yeah, I mean, I think people just gotta deal with their own things.
Wrap it up. Do something. I don't care what you do.
But I'm saying...
Just try your best not to have kids.
But realistically, a lot of people are gonna fucking have kids. So...
That's true, but
if you're gonna have kids...
But here's the thing. Why are we going to say realistically people are going to have kids?
Because we don't have a culture that
but you have control over
promotes people thinking critically before they have kids.
That's true. All I'm going to say is, if you are not mentally, I don't care if you're financially fine to have kids, if you're not mentally there, just don't do it, because that kid is going to grow up resenting you, and you're going to have to live with that and deal with that. So yeah, that's all I have to say. I feel like we left it on a sour note, but whatever. Yeah, we got it on. Cheers. Woo! Okay, so I'm trying to think